Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Cooking Up Virtual Events with Emma Parker and Wil Watts. Emma, Will, welcome to my little world of virtual events, I guess, and welcome to my bar.
A beautiful bar.
I was going to say,
yes,
very
thank you. Thank you for joining me today, and welcome to Cooking Up Virtual Events with me, Miguel Neves. I am the host, and as with other editions of this show, we do kind of behind the scenes look at different events. And today I'm joined by Emma Parker Wil Watts, who are Madam Geneva Gent, or at least that is the company they represent. So why don't we start with that? And if you're watching us live, let us know where you are. Let us know that you're watching. Please add it in the comments, just where you're watching from. I'm in Denmark. Will, I think you're in London. Emma, I don't remember if we covered where you are exactly. Are you in London as well?
I'm actually currently in Essex.
In Essex. Okay, very good. Not a million miles away, but still not quite London. Great. So if you're watching us, let us know in the comments. But Will, Emma, tell me a little bit about how this all came together. I mean, I actually came across this because I saw a post of Will's on LinkedIn, and I thought, oh, that looks like fun. That looks creative. But I know there's a lot of backstory to this, so I don't know where you want to start. But I'd love to share a little bit of the backstory and get everybody to understand how this all came about.
Well, yeah, it started pretty much after Emma and I had a lovely cheeky gin and tonic in a bar one evening. Sorry, that's the short story. Emma and I had met each other about 7 years ago now through business networking in London. We both had our own businesses, and we met there. And we basically realized we had lots in common. Emma is a fantastic tour guide as well, and has some her own company, Coutures, which is bespoke and unique tours of London. I'm an events manager, an event professional. We're not doing gin and cocktail tastings as well, and we kind of got together, bounced a few ideas off each other. Emma already did a few gin and drinks tours, walking tours in and around London. I think, Emma, you were asked, could you create a static tour, which is an interesting concept, and basically a gin tasting.
Yeah, I love the fact we call them walking tours. By the end of it, we were sort of almost walking, sort of half dragging our feet around. No, not quite so bad. They're not quite that drunken. But yeah, I was asked for to do a tour sitting down. And as a tour guide who spends most of your time on your feet, it was like music to my ears. And I remember talking to Will about it. And then we just went a little bit further. We ended up having a G&T in a little bar called Merchant House right in the city of London. And we bonded over this delicious gin. And we just came up with this whole concept for Madam Geneva Gent, sort of getting the information that that Will and I both knew a lot about gin, and getting that out to people in a more liquid format, I suppose, giving them more things to drink. It was good fun.
Love that. And so just to make sure everybody understands the context, we're talking about the pre-corona tours, let's call them, right? This is Madam Geneva Gent as it existed. When is this? 2018, 2019?
2017 was our first event. We did a little showcase event, invited a select number of people we knew, people in the industry, just to kind of test the waters and just check that what the format that we had created had worked. It was really, really good to do that, see what worked, see what didn't work, and then we've basically developed it from there, and then did live, as you say, live in-person events for the last, pre-March 2020 for 3 years. And we did that, and then obviously Corona came along.
And then Corona came along. And I guess, obviously no discredit to the original tours or the original gin tours, but I'm really curious about how you adapted, how you kind of pivoted, if we really want to use that word, but how you changed and made it so that it was also kind of interesting to do this online, and it's got some really rave reviews. So before we go there, I just wanted to recognize a few of the people that are live. James is watching us from Helsinki in Finland. We have Amy Daniels in London.
Hi, Amy.
Familiar name for you?
Yeah,
of course.
I know Amy.
And Erica Keown, I don't know if you know Erica as well. She's in Harrogate. And we have Samantha Bowman from London. and Bob Nelson, someone who's been on a few of these shows, Bob from St. Louis, Missouri. So we're covering across the pond as well. And we have a LinkedIn user from cold Southeast London. Unfortunately, I can't see who LinkedIn user is in cold Southeast London.
I'm in Southeast London as well. So I can vouch
I think
for
we're
it.
about -7 right now here in Denmark, but I can't complain. The house is nice and warm, so can't really complain. And we have Mireille as well from the Netherlands. A few more people have joined and added to the comments, so thank you very much, everybody. Marie Lacoste from Montreal. We have Helen from Surrey, and we have Pierpaolo Mariotti, ciao, from Italy. And we have Anastasia saying hello from Namibia. Now we're covering 3 continents. Now we're getting somewhere.
Any advance on 3?
Excellent. Exactly. Anybody over in Asia? I mean, it might be a little bit late for Asia or Australia or somewhere, but great. So tell us about this pivot. You went from, these creative tours, gin focused, and then you suddenly had to figure out, what are we going to do online? What are we going to do virtually? So tell us about the thought process there and how you figure that out.
So, I mean, Will and I had a massive discussion because Will working in events, I'm working as a tour guide. We've got wonderful Madam Geneva Gent, which we knew sadly wouldn't be able to go ahead in the short term. So we just brainstormed. We chatted almost every day, and then we had this amazing idea that we knew somebody. We suddenly realized we knew somebody that actually had boxes that they would send out that are filled with miniatures, and all we needed to do was to create a miniature box, which we would curate ourselves, put that together. Then we've got the materials. Then we've actually got the product. That was the big thing, wasn't it, Will? The big thing was the product, I suppose. We knew what the content would be because Will and I have gone through it so many times. So, Will would sort of talk you how we sort of move through the sort of content of it.
Yeah. So we created the content, and then, as Emma said, we kind of had this idea, and we I remember it actually vividly. It was like this: we both had this phone call. We just suddenly went, "I've had this amazing idea. Let's get in contact with our, who we partnered with, which is Microbar Box." And as Emma said, they had all the miniatures all ready, and we just gave them a call and said, "Listen, we want to do a gin tasting. Can you put this kind of gin and this kind of gin, and then can we do like a cocktail in there as well?" And within, I think, March 23rd was the beginning of the lockdown, and then we did our first virtual event on the 11th of April, so we turned that around pretty quickly, and it was all thanks to Microbar Box being able to get our Madam Geneva and Gent Microbar Box ready and do all the fulfillment and the dispatch and the shipping for us. Yeah. So
perfect. Yeah. So let me just say what I'm hearing to make sure everybody understands. So you have your tours, you have your knowledge of gin, you have your concept, what you take people through. And then because everybody was based at home, you're like, how do we do this remote? And so you partner with Microbar Box, I think you mentioned the name, and they send out your design box. So you chose the ingredients. There you go. There's an example. Hold on, we'll wave that up. I'll put you up big on the screen so everybody can see what that looks like. Okay,
so this is their box. And then what it looks like inside is that. So this is our current, we're doing a Valentine's Day experience on Valentine's Day. And so the gin version was very similar to this. It was a lovely box full of lovely bottles for everyone to enjoy. And then we meet up online and talk them through the experience and the box.
Perfect. So that box is something you designed, and they have everything they need in there, I guess, without ice and glasses. But other than that, it's kind of ready to go. And so you're really touching all 5 senses, right? Because you're doing the visual and the audio online. Yeah. You've got the tactile box, you've got tasting, and you've got scents. I would imagine you're really kind of it's really a fully tactile experience that you're providing. Excellent. So I wanted to do a few more shout outs, and do stop me if you want to complete that information anymore. But I wanted to then also jump over to the video that you're prepared, because I think it'll make a little bit more sense to everybody watching. I wanted to give a few shout outs here. Susie Davis in Central London. Susie, nice to virtually see you. We have Ingrid in the Netherlands. Really, really great to have you join us again, Ingrid. Joe James over in Portugal. Hello. My home country, so that's fun. And we were talking about continents. Again, it's a LinkedIn user. We can't see the photo, but we've got Lima, Peru on the line. So we're kind of on 4 continents now. I think we're doing pretty good. I think we're raising the bar. And we've got Vignesh also in, where are you, Vignesh? Let us know in the comments. Maybe we've reached another continent now, which would be even more amazing, or another part of the world. So thanks everybody for watching us live. If you're watching this on the recording, you can still add where you are in the comments and join the fun. I won't be able to recognize you live though. But let's jump over to the video. I think this will add a little bit more context to everybody. And then when we come back, we'll go into a bit more detail of how this all happens, how it takes place. And we may or may not be making a cocktail later. So looking forward to that.
Are we all ready? Are we ready to begin, as you've been saying? I've got to say it now. Yes, I'm taking all of Emma's best lines. We're delighted to be invited into all your homes this evening. So we're going to take you on a Juniper-inspired journey. I hope you're all suitably furnished with a gin and tonic in your hand.
$50 ml of vodka, Sipsmith gin, and one of your tonic waters.
The Cointreau. See how I said that? Cointreau.
I'm going to pour it from my miniature here. Excuse me.
And we noticed that the Dutch would scull probably the entire terracotta flagon and run out onto the battlefield, brave as you like, and fight. Now, anybody know any expressions that may have come from such a drink?
Courage.
Dutch courage.
Courage.
So a little bit of Dutch courage, that's what we need tonight.
Quarantini is the martini. It was invented in March 2020, and it was created as the martini that you make at home on your own when in lockdown. So cheers to the Quarantini.
Now the cocktail shaker has nothing in it. I feel like a magician. Look.
You want to create this kind of two-tone effect where you have the dark and then the stormy.
1, 2, 3.
Have a little taste and please do tell me what you think.
Oh, tingly.
There we go. Teeth and tongue tingling moments, everyone.
I feel like I want to dribble a lot.
You feel like you want to dribble a lot.
Yeah, it makes me feel like I'm salivating.
And who said delicious? Because you know what, I'm going to give you points as well because it's
Yes,
absolutely well done. It is absolutely delicious. So cheers to that.
That looks like a lot of fun. I think brilliant video. I like how you've blurred everybody's faces out. I think it's obviously something you have to do, but I see a lot of people not doing that. So I think it's kudos to you for keeping it, private. I have a few questions though. Quarantini, yeah.
This is official. This is an official cocktail. Right at the beginning of the lockdown, people started talking about the Quarantini and it being the martini that you made on your own at home. So we rolled with that. We love it. I enjoy many a Quarantini.
Perfect. I mean, they look like so good humored, and so much fun going on there. But also some interesting facts, right? I think Emma, from your background, you're adding a little bit of history there and a little bit of interesting stuff there, right?
Yeah, we do try and mix in the interesting bits of history. So that's the sort of idea. So anything that sort of came from a tour or really was relevant. There's a lot to say about gin. So trying to do gin in an hour and a half sometimes, you could go on for days, but we've now got sort of different parts of gin's history coming out in different events that we do. So we do like the bleak bits though best, don't we, Will? We're really into those sort of like, and then, they were poisoning themselves during the sort of 18th century. And then we give them people a tasting after that. Now taste your gin. It's like, but you've just talked about poison. Don't worry, it'll be fine. So yeah, we like to shock people into trying a few gins. And we just love watching their reactions. I mean, you give them a gin to taste, and it's quite a historic gin, you know, like an old Tom. And some people never tasted gin neat. Some people just look at you and say, well, I used to do this as a teenager, so why are you making me do it now? But it has a purpose, you know, to actually for people to get to know the drink a bit more and see the difference between the gins. And also, it's just fun actually trying things like that, doing something a bit different.
Is that in the video? Is that what's happening when people talk about dribbling and kind of the tasting? Is that when they taste the straight gin?
Yeah. Sorry, Will. I was just going to say
it's
the tongue tingling moment. Sorry.
Yeah. It's one of those. So one of the bits we do that we love, which people love when we do it, is, you know, most people have been to a wine tasting. You know, they do that whole process of smelling the wine and then slurping it through, for want of a better word. We do the same thing with gin. So we actually teach people a 3-step process to actually tasting the gin neat. And yes, it is neat. I think, again, it's another interesting thing that kind of differentiates us from other experiences and virtual experiences, is that it's not a gin and tonic tasting, it is a gin tasting. We have tonic in there, but we do initially encourage everyone to try the gin neat, which, as Emma said, they've either never done, or they just think back to that, you know, cheaper version that they had when they were a student.
And you don't put anything cheap in the box, of course.
Nope.
Absolutely nothing cheap in the box.
So why gin? I mean, you know, why not? But any particular reason you chose gin, or?
Well, I was originally I was doing an awful lot of research into gin for a tour I do, which is called A History of London in 4 Drinks. So the idea of gin came about because I talk about tea, I talk about coffee and beer, and also gin. Now, Will and I have worked on a lot of these sort of drink events together, and he's done some of the tours as well. And so the gin element just sort of kept expanding until we end up sort of creating a gin walk as well. So I put that into my tour repertoire. But gin is just fantastic. It's so interesting. And the more you look into it, I mean, at first it was almost overwhelming, but it's just brilliant. There's so much. It's the gift that keeps on giving, is how I'd like to describe gin as a subject.
Very interesting. We've got a question already, and I wanted to just ask anybody who's watching live, if you have any questions, please do just add in the comments. Please do that. And also, if you've participated in one of these events before, we'd love to hear your thoughts. I know there's a couple of people. I think Amy Daniels says, Will Watts, I think I'm going to need another one of those boxes. It sounds like you've been to one of these events before, Amy, so do let us know what you think. And Kaylee Griffith, someone who just joined, says fantastic events. I don't know if she's participated before, but it'd be great to have some. She has. Okay, great to have some feedback. Just a shout out quick to Jillian in Montreal and Florence in London and Alan Ford, one of my ex-colleagues from the IMEX team down in Brighton. So a few more people are joining us live. Hope you're still with us. Question from Bob Nelson, pretty much a direct kind of factual question. Let's make sure we cover these off as well. What platforms did you use for registration, payment, and the virtual experience? So Bob's going for the tools question. Anything you can tell us about the tools that you're using for these events?
Yeah, so the Madam Geneva Gent website is run on Squarespace, and so Squarespace have an e-commerce part of their offering. So pretty much we started to use that right from the get-go, to use Squarespace's own e-commerce part. We tried at one point to go to a different one that was more event and tour operated. But there were, as always with things like this, there's good points and bad points, and in the end, it just worked better and seamlessly to run it all through the website provider. Payment is so as a e-commerce linked in with Stripe, so we used Stripe to take payments over online, and then the virtual experience actually takes place primarily on Zoom. So we used Zoom pretty much from the get-go. However, due to client requirements, stipulations, we can run the experiences on other platforms, such as we've used Google Meet, we've used Teams, we've used GoToMeeting. So those are just a few of the other ones. Our preferred platform has always been Zoom. We know it best. It has all of the functionality that we currently use. It's not just us on screen. We use the screen sharing, we use the polls, and I know that a lot of platforms do have these features now, but we've kind of broadened our knowledge of Zoom and how it works. So that's our preferred platform. But as I say, we have run it on other platforms as well. So yeah.
Perfect. No, I think that's, yeah, go ahead.
Just point out as well, so when we started as well, so with regards to the e-commerce, we were running public events. So pretty much from April to September, we were running, they were weekly at one in their height, public events. Where people, pubs weren't open, and so we ran a public event for people to come online and do the event, and that's how it grew. That's where word of mouth started building about the event. But obviously, July 4th came along, pubs reopened, and so we really then saw a decline in the uptake on public events. But the corporate world then suddenly took over, and we started getting more and more private bookings for corporate events and stuff like that.
Really interesting. So I wanted to unpack a little bit what you're saying there about using the Squarespace e-commerce side, which I think is a really interesting option. And I don't want to say if it's the right or the wrong option, but I think it's really interesting that you're saying, look, we could have, got a professional event registration platform, which will, as an event organizer, I'm sure you've used a bunch of them, but actually it was better suited to your needs, at least that's what I understood, to just use the e-commerce platform and make it really simple and kind of integrate it into the site rather than kind of send people off somewhere else to register and do all that kind of thing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, so the website Madam Geneva Gent.co.uk, I built that. I'm not a web developer, but I know Squarespace quite well. So that's why we went with that from pretty much, 2017 when we started. I knew that it had an e-commerce part of Squarespace, so we tried it out. There was things we had to tweak, things we had to change. With all these systems, it doesn't work as just how you want it to be, but it was working. We tried another platform that had other elements to it that worked as well, but in the end, what we found was being taken away from the Squarespace website wasn't ideal. So by having and using Squarespace's e-commerce section that you just plug your Stripe account into and add it on there, you're not leaving anywhere, you're not going anywhere, it's all built in, and you can run all the systems, the stock control, the how many people can book on the event, the variations of the events that we did, which is basically dates and times, and we could monitor, and all the notifications were coming through. So I remember when we first launched, it was so exciting to suddenly get the emails coming through going a ticket had been bought, and Emma and I were both getting them in tandem. We kind of were messaging each other going, oh, another one. So because we'd done a few public events in real life, but nothing like this. And so it was really a interesting and fun and exciting time that in this moment of, both our worlds of tours and events had slowed down and stopped, to suddenly to be doing something that was relevant and actually bringing a lot of joy to people was in this time when it was hard. It was good fun. So
yeah,
we've got a nice comment from Helen as well. Great events, lots of fun. And Kaylee Griffith says, the experiences are brilliant. So much knowledge gained on the history of gin. And even if you're not a fan of the drink's taste, like me, have a great time. I've done it both physically and virtually. A big fan there, Kaylee. And Amy says, premium products packaging, highly recommended. So maybe, I don't know, Emma or Will, you mentioned you do, the corporate events, which I guess are specific for a group or a company. And then you also do the public events. Do you still do both? And how does that change from when you started to how it's developed? Has there been a big shift there, or is it still kind of a similar spread?
I think it has changed quite a lot, actually, because when we first started, we weren't really 100% sure who it was going to appeal to. We worked with a lot of corporates before, so we knew that they would need something to do. But I think when we first put on the public events and people were buying the tickets, and I mean, it was great because the atmosphere on those was sort of electric, and people were excited about the new sort of technology, and people were still struggling maybe to get on. It's an interesting question in there saying, how do you get people on time and stuff like that? You just tell them, get there on time. And that's also why there are two of us. You don't want me helping you in, trying to get on. But if we did have a problem in those early days in particular, Will would be the one on the phone going, okay, now just tap that. Can you see on the top left-hand corner? He was doing all those bits, and I was going, anyway, blah, blah, blah. And I was doing front of house. So it was a bit like having this sort of double act going on. So I definitely got the sort of the longer straw out of the two. But, we sort of, then I suppose, it was really weird when we got to July the 4th, and Will always shows this picture of Gin Lane and this sort of very drunken woman falling all over the place. And he said, this is a picture of Emma out on July the 4th celebrating the opening of pubs, which I have to say is not true. But we weren't sure where it was going to go with corporates. And the weirdest thing is people started going to pubs, more businesses starting to come to us because they realised there wasn't much chance of getting everyone back into the cities, into the offices and stuff. They wouldn't be able to get people into venues to get together. So it really snowballed. I mean, it was going really well, but we thought it's all going to stop. And it went the opposite way, in actual fact. So we've got a nice one, haven't we, Will? We've got Sunday night, a little bit of love.
Yes, yeah. So we've got this is our first public event since end of last year. Is the Valentine's evening that we're doing a special? It's one-off. We're only doing it on Valentine's evening, and we're loving how that's done. I think again we're in a third lockdown. Sorry, right now in the UK. So again, people are clamoring for something interesting to do rather than going out for their daily walks, and so this is a really nice one. It's for couples, so the box has been designed specifically for a couple to share and make the drinks as well. So that's one we're doing, and we've got other ideas always bubbling under the surface of what we can do next. And
anything you can give us a preview of?
Yeah, so we are about to launch a new experience. We've tested the water a few times with it last year, and it's proving to be really popular. And we were going to coincide it with the release of the new James Bond film, despite that being, well, we keep saying, despite that being pushed back again and again and again. So Undercover Cocktails is going to be our next experience that we're going to add to our two currently most popular experiences, which is the Distilled History of Gin and the Golden Age of Cocktails. So we're going to do Undercover Cocktails, and it's going to be an exploration into espionage, spies, spooks, and spirits. So yeah, it's going to be lots of fun, looking at spies, both fictional, both real life, what they drank, and the cocktails they would have made, or asked to be made, which in particular, I'm sure we all know James Bond's favourite cocktail. So
yes, very good. I love the storytelling element there and how you kind of bring it all together. Just to go back to the previous point, so you started with public events, and then the corporate side kind of grew, and then you were afraid it might stop because of the end of lockdown or the opening of the pubs. And if we're talking about people in the UK, that's more linear. For me, I wasn't really aware of the timelines there, so it's good to kind of just pepper that in. But so now you mainly do corporate, and you haven't done that many public events, but you're doing a Valentine's Day event, which I imagine is too late to register now, right? Because you can't get the drinks in time, unfortunately. But you probably will do more public events at some point, right?
Yeah, I think we will. We like doing is other seasonal events as well. So we had two events at Christmas. So we did a Merry Quizmas, which was cocktails, scavenger hunt, and a few kind of fun quiz questions and stuff with a little bit of history thrown in, and then a very merry Christmas, which, as you can tell by the title, meant that we did drink a little bit, and also it was a whole sort of British history of Christmas and the weird and wonderful things that we do and why we do them. So there will be more themes. In fact, we've potentially got another one coming up quite soon, which I have yet to talk to Will about, because stupid
just
idea.
take this into your own meeting as well. Just have like a brainstorming meeting now live. It'll be fun.
talk about it.
Well,
Yeah.
Lorraine suddenly likes the idea of undercover cocktails. Says undercover cocktails sound fabulous. I'm shaken and stirred. Apparently.
You'll be both. Yeah.
Perfect. So a few questions that have come in, and I want to talk a little bit more on the production side. I know this is maybe more of a Will question, but I hope you don't mind, Emma. I think this is really interesting to particularly this audience. One LinkedIn user who I can't see who it is says, the box look beautiful. How tricky are the logistics, making sure you get to people on time? So I think in this case, she's talking, or he or she is talking more about, the box, the delivery, making sure that that all happens. And there was another question, which is kind of similar from Florence, which is what is your lead time on your events in terms of preparation?
Yeah. So as we said, we partner with Microbox, and they do all our shipping and fulfillment. We don't actually physically touch the boxes. We work with them on developing the contents of the box, what's available in miniature form, and we basically work with them. They already had this fantastic business where they send out gift boxes, a subscription box as well, and they did corporate events as well, for corporate prizes and corporate gifts. So they were already set up in terms of the logistics. So once we worked out between Madam Geneva, or Madam G as they call us, and which I love, it's always a Madam G thing, Madam Geneva and Gent and Microbox, once we'd worked out, okay, we've got a box, we know we can do it, we then had to work out how we were going to sort out the logistics and the delivery addresses and deliveries. Obviously, with this, we're dealing with people's personal details and personal data. So we had to be very, very careful that we weren't, we had to be fully GDPR compliant. Because essentially we're getting data from our clients and then passing it on to Microbox, and they are, really pleased to say as well, fully GDPR compliant as well. So the big thing for me, I remember at the beginning, was just panicking at moments, going, well, what if the boxes don't arrive in time, and what if someone doesn't get their box? And I had many sleepless nights over low stock, and we ran out of dry vermouth. There was a vermouth shortage in the whole of the UK at one point that we were like panicking about, because it was a major part of our gin event. And do you know what's really been lovely is absolutely just working with them and them taking the reins on that, and all, we have to gather the data from our clients and provide it to Microbox in a secure way, so that they can just work from the data, get the labels printed up. They use DPD for their deliveries, so we know it's a premium service that they're getting. The DPD usually deliver between 1 and 2 days all over the UK. And in terms of the lead time, we ask for 7 days from the receipt of everyone's delivery details to the actual event, just because we're fully aware that things go walkies, things go missing. People might give us the wrong address details. People might type in the wrong thing when they were filling out their details. And, boxes, or people might not be there at the time when they're supposed to be for the delivery. So we ask for that length of time, that delivery turnaround time, just so that if someone doesn't receive their box, then we've got plenty of time to send out a replacement.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And remember, you mentioned you're only really able to do this in the UK, right? Because we're talking about alcohol, first off, which doesn't travel well across borders unless you have some sort of special license, but also you probably would have to deal with different suppliers, right? And it's quite a lot of work to get this relationship right. They manage the shipping and the purchasing of the drinks. You don't have to worry about that. So if you were to do this in a different country, you could, right? But you'd have to establish a completely new relationship, and there would have to be a service like Microbox that would have the same quality and the same kind of delivery.
It's really been interesting. The whole, delivering overseas has, comes with its own issues in terms of UK, licensing laws and distribution and duty laws. We especially since the 1st of January this year, it's almost become impossible, if not extremely expensive, for anyone to get any form of alcohol overseas, even to Northern Ireland. So unfortunately, we only deliver at the moment to the UK mainland, Isle of Wight, Isle of Man, and a few of the other islands, but we can't do it, unfortunately, to Northern Ireland or the Channel Islands. However, you know, this is something we've experienced throughout the whole process. So we have shopping lists. We have a list of suggested items that if someone can't receive one of our boxes, then we say, okay, go and find these things, and we'll give them a choice of, you know, what's available in their country, what is, you know, what's only available locally. And we'll say, if you can get something similar to this, then this will work, and you can still join us, and you can still have a great event. So we have had people dialing in from America, India, Hong Kong, South Africa. I mean,
so you have an option where people can join an event but not get a box. So it's up to them to find the ingredients. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So they can find the ingredients, and they can source the ingredients to as much as they can get, and then they just join in. And we also have a non-alcoholic box as well. That we've been sending out to people who want to join the experience but are choosing not to drink, and that's become really, really popular as well.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds like a really nice option to have as well, and very inclusive, where you don't actually need to consume alcohol to have a good time and learn, you know, and have some good stories to tell, etc. I see Alan here asks about how will Brexit affect the sending of the boxes. I'm not sure it will, right? Because you're not going to be sending any boxes outside the UK.
No, we don't send any boxes ourselves outside of the UK. We know that companies can do it, but we don't get involved. We just know that since January the 1st, I believe I heard from someone the other week that it was going to cost them £150 to send some form of a box with alcohol in it to Ireland, even Northern Ireland as well. So it's just something we don't do. So
let's not get into politics, but let's say, you know, let's figure out this Brexit thing. When they figure everything out about duties, then maybe it'll be possible to revisit that at a later time. I wanted to talk a little bit about the storytelling and also the production, but maybe over to Emma. I know from chatting to you, Will, you mentioned that you do keep the production quite simple, right? But that's also an intentional thing. You're not investing in expensive backdrops and video productions and all these kind of things. Your events are very much face-to-face about the storytelling, and I think that's a conscious choice. Am I right?
I think so. For me, it's about, you can put as many backdrops as you like or special effects, but the story has to be there. So for us, you know, we're so used to talking to people in real life about gin, about cocktails, and interacting that this became an extension of what we used to do in real life. So that's sort of how we decided to go with it.
Yeah, and a lot of people asked us at the beginning, you know, does the box include equipment, you know, cocktail equipment and glassware and stuff? Putting glasses in a box that you're going to ship all over the UK just becomes a bit of a hazard in terms of glass breaking. The glass used in the miniature bottles is quite sturdy, and I know Micropop Box and ourselves have tested it from a great height, dropping one of our boxes on the floor. They don't smash. It's great. But putting thinner glassware into the box, we're not going to trust that. So we've never done it. Plus, the cost of the box would just become way too much. The whole idea with the production side, in terms of what you need to enjoy our experiences, if you've got a glass and you've got the ability to make some ice and get a lemon and a lime, then that's essentially the most of what you need to enjoy one of our experiences. I mean, we do use cocktail shakers. Emma and I have all the equipment we have. But part of our instructions that we send out to people when they're joining one of our events is, you don't need one of these, or you don't need the fancy measure either to make a good cocktail. If you've got a protein shaker or a jam jar, anything that you can put the ice inside and shake up a cocktail in it, that works. Because, you know, going back to the original idea, was we were doing this at a time in the first lockdown where people couldn't or didn't have this stuff, and we didn't want to even ask people, oh yeah, just nip down the shops and get this for the experience. We didn't want to put people at risk of going outside and doing anything other than, you know, things that are easy to find in a local shop, like a lemon and a lime. That's quite easy, and if you're going to your local weekly shop anyway, you could pick that stuff up there. But so you could do it with whatever you've got at home. And, you know, again, why Emma and I are in our homes when we're doing the experiences, we don't have fancy backdrops. because it's all about, we're in the same situation as you are. We're working from home, we're at our homes as well, and we didn't want it to be a kind of them and us situation. Our events are always very conversational, so we love it to have the interaction and the kind of, we're on the same level as you are.
And how have the events developed from, if you think about your first event and now your latest events? I mean, is it night and day? What's changed in the meantime?
I don't, definitely not night and day. In fact, we were so organized with the first event, and it's still our most popular event, the Distilled History of Gin. So, you know, for us, it was an event that we could very easily take online and talk about. And we've tweaked it a little bit, but then from there you get these sort of spin-offs. So we wanted to sort of take some gin cocktails and turn those into a story as well. But also we work with clients who need, you know, innovative and new events. We do the events for Priceless Cities for MasterCard. So about once every 6 weeks, we do a new event for them, it has to be unique. So we come up with old ideas. So Will and I sort of brainstorm, and then we do a lot of tasting. And then we have to remember what we tasted, because we've done a lot of tasting. And then we put together this idea, and then
research, right? We did some research yesterday. We come up with this really good idea.
I've got a massive headache from my research. So you know, but it's sort of good fun, you know. And then they often say to us, I mean, the best one was, we asked, could we do a veganuary event, which actually we ended up doing together, Will and I. And that was really good fun. We did a lot on no alcoholic cocktails, or like non-alcoholic cocktails as well. It really sort of made us experiment without a headache about how to make these cocktails really exciting. And I have to say, I'm a bit of a convert now, but yeah.
Controversial. Are we going non-alcoholic for future events?
Maybe.
So great questions here from Florence, and I'd like to maybe dissect these, separate these, because there's two really good questions here. One is, do you include any gamification like quiz or polls, or is the experience all organic? And I'll come to the second part of the question afterwards, so let's make sure to split that out.
So as Emma said, we pretty much took what we've been doing, the Distilled History of Gin, the real life in-person event, and we put that online and virtually, obviously with real drinks involved. Then, as both Emma and I understood the Zoom platform a lot more, we started to bring in these interactive elements as well. So we were already screen sharing. You know, when we do the cocktail, we put a list of things that people need to go and get. We then started using the polling function, so that we could say, okay, taste this gin. Can you taste any of the botanicals? And we would list the botanicals that are in this gin that make up the flavor profile. And we'd say, can you taste them? It's really interesting to see, you know, what different people can taste when we do the tastings. We developed an experience for a team that was about 50 people initially, and they wanted to do a more of an interactive experience. So we created the Bright Young Things Treasure Hunt, which was gin and tonic tasting with, as Emma said, the quizzes and polls, and we did a scavenger hunt around your own home. So we kind of put up a list of things that people needed to find, and we turned it into more of a quiz and that kind of gamification side of things to make it a bit more interactive. I'd not done a Zoom pub quiz when they were all the rage back in the early part of the year, but we felt it was similar to that. But with that, there's an element of trust that everyone's scoring themselves and marking themselves. It's good fun after a couple of gin and tonics to kind of then come to the end and say, right, who's added up their scores? And everyone says, oh, I forgot about that bit. I was just having such a good time.
Just fun to try and answer questions. Who's winning is not so important.
Yeah. What was the second half of
the second half of the question, which I think is a separate question, but I think it's also a really good question. What's the customer journey before and post event? So
from booking, we mainly deal with one point of contact with the client. And then when we receive everyone's details, which includes email addresses, we will dispatch the boxes, or Microbox dispatch the boxes for us. Everyone will receive a tracking email from DPD with their own tracking code, so they can monitor the process of the box, add in to the part that they need to, you know, a safe location if they're not going to be in or for whatever reason. so that the courier can leave the box, and then in a safe place. We then send out an email with basically the Zoom link or the link to whatever platform we're going to use, and a few pre-experienced instructions on just what to prepare and what they need to have a good time on one of our events. So it's things like what kind of glassware, how much ice you need, and what garnishes you need. For the cocktail one,
partially like technical stuff, but also the props and the things that you need to do to make it all work, right?
Yeah, it's basically what's the bare minimum that you need to get this going. As I said, if you've just got one kind of glass, that's fine. We can make a martini work in that. That's absolutely no problem at all. But then it's things like, so we send out the confirmation. That happens a week before the event. And then on the day of the event, we send a reminder out to everyone involved. Again, the link and whatever they need to prepare, just as a last minute reminder. Post-event, we send out a thank you email just to thank everyone for coming. We also, we didn't do this at the beginning, and we learned, again, we could do this with screen grabs, that we could take a photograph of everyone on screen with their cocktail. So after we made the martini at the end of the gin event, or in the cocktail event, we made one of the cocktails. We could do everyone posing with a glass in their hand and take a screenshot, which we share for everyone if it's their own event, a private event, that we share that with them. We didn't do that with public events, obviously, because we couldn't take a screen grab of the screen and then send it to everyone to post on social media. And we actually asked people at the start of the event on the public ones, please don't take photographs of the screen or screen grabs and post online, because you don't know what the next person's privacy settings are. So yeah, it was like that.
Perfect. So I guess for the public events, it's a bit more scattered, right? At the beginning, you get lots of different sources of information. For the corporate events, it's one person kind of gathers everything for you and sends it all out. But I guess ultimately, if they're using the registration system, you're doing that gathering of the data, right? So it works in a similar way once you have it all together.
One of the things we quickly learned is that some companies didn't want to process and manage the delivery details of their clients because they're home details. Mm-hmm. So one of the features that we brought in as well was that you can register via our platform for your event privately. Perfect. So that the client who we were dealing with never saw those details. They never got to see or process that data. So only we would get.
Fascinating, because GDPR, that makes sense, because even private companies, their people's data and how much gin they're consuming is probably not something they want to keep on file or anything. So it's just like, let's let the professionals handle this. Great question from Erica. What's the ideal number of participants? Do you have a sort of range that works best?
Well, we have sort of sweet spots, I think, Will and I. The minimum number we do on a private event is 12. So we start with 12. And I would say anything up to about 24. I love it where you can see everybody. I mean, we have had bigger events where you've had a lot of interaction, 40 or 50 people, and it felt like a small event because people were nicely interested and engaged. But I would say we always have our most fun. I think the smaller the groups are, they're between about 12 and 20. We usually have the most amount of fun, but we like size. Every time is a different, unique experience. So we're always happy with whatever size we get.
Perfect. And I just wanted to add this great comment on the screen. Pier Paolo Mariotti says, "I'm amazed by this, is what I call a possible social program for a digital congress." So there you go. Expect a call from Pier Paolo saying, could you do a social program for our next digital congress? I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's worth saying, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is what we've done, as well as just going on and doing a fun experience for people's teams. We've done social programs and social aspects of people's webinars. So either we come on midway through their, they're doing their presentation, their business seminar, and then we're on the end. Or we've done it where we've mixed in business and drinks and cocktails. So it works lovely, and we work with the clients to really find out what they're looking for, how they want to run it. And we, obviously provide our expertise on what we've done in the past that works really, really well. And we kind of add to this. So social programs, being parts of people's AGMs, it's all working. I think as more people have realized towards the end of last year that online and virtual conferences were going to be here for a while, we've managed to fit ourselves seamlessly into that. And we're doing regular events with clients, and it's amazing how the people keep coming back to do another event, but with a different client group. So we have these regular faces that always pop up on our experiences that we always joke and say, if we can't do it one day, then I'm sure they can cover for us. They know the yeah.
Brilliant. Great stuff. Yeah, I just want to say, I think it's worth noting that this isn't just about sending some cocktail ingredients in the post and just saying, hey, for the next half an hour, we're going to be making some cocktails. There's a lot of work in this, right? And that's why hiring somebody like you makes a lot of sense. Or saying, hey, we're going to leave some space in the AGM to have a kind of entertaining feature, get to know each other, taste, etc. Use the five senses. I think it's at a different level to I think a lot of people kind of carve out some space in the AGM and go, we're going to do some networking now for 30 minutes. Okay, you guys go network on Zoom. But it's like, people can't, nobody does anything. Then everybody goes like, oh, I need to go and do the laundry. I'll be right back, right? And then nothing happens for 30 minutes, right? So I'm pretty sure that's not what happens at your event. So we've got about 10 minutes left. And we mentioned maybe making a cocktail live. And I got some ingredients ready. My coffee has gone a bit cold, but that's okay. And we mentioned a vodka martini. So shall we do this? Is there anything you wanted to mention before we make a cocktail?
So I'm going to make an espresso martini. So I need to run off and grab my ice. I've got everything else here, but I will make this with you. So if you bear with me 1 second, I'll be back in about a minute with my ice.
No problem.
And can I just say, I've noticed that we've got the lovely Jo James with us, and we need to do a little shout out for Jo James, because Will and I also work with Jo James as a wonderful business coach, and she put us in contact with the wonderful microbar box with a lady called Kate Darracott. So I think she came up with the idea first because she knew Kate. So, thank you, Jo James, for all your help and also putting us in contact with the person. Otherwise, we would have been struggling, I think. If you didn't know immediately where to source the box for this, it would have been a lot more tricky to get off the ground. And certainly, Will and I were not going to be, rolling around, bottles and rolling them up and sending them out ourselves. Not our thing.
Perfect. So big shout out to Jo James. And here is my little bar. So I figured I'd try to do this live. Yes. Get a good camera angle here. I think the glasses might disappear a little bit, so I can stand behind the glasses and I'll just move my camera up slightly. This is a first for me. I've never done a live cocktail in the studio before. So bear with me if the image isn't quite right just yet, but we'll get there. And as you can tell, I'm not actually in a bar. It's just a Zoom background. But I've got the ingredients that Will asked for. I've got some vodka, Absolute in this case. I've got some Kahlua, the coffee liqueur. I've got a little espresso in my little Portuguese cable car kind of thing. Oh, and Will's back. Let me just bring Will back on the screen. Let me just get this up here. Oh, and we've got Erica's question in there. There we go. Will, you're back.
Okay, cool. So, we're going to make an espresso martini, which is very, very popular with our events, but there's a bit of a trick to doing it. So I'm going to talk you through. So if you're going to make an espresso martini later on, if you're watching this on the playback and you want to join in, grab yourself a bottle of premium vodka, grab yourself a bottle of good quality coffee liqueur. So Miguel has got Kahlua there. I've got Tia Maria, and they're both fantastic coffee liqueurs, and others are available. And then also you need to have your shot of espresso coffee. So I've got mine just here. So we're going to talk you through how to make this. Once you've got all those ingredients, you also need to have a cocktail shaker with ice inside it, and then a glass to pour it into. So first things first, and this always shocks everyone when they receive the box with these miniatures and we say, right, get your bottle of vodka, your miniature bottle of vodka, 50 ml, and add the entire bottle. We're pouring the whole miniature. I should add miniature. Miguel, don't add your entire bottle of your vodka.
Yeah, be careful with those instructions, right? I think mine is a different kind of size.
Sorry. Normally it's me with the larger bottle, but yeah. So measure up.
I've got a little fancy thing. So it's actually a 20-40 measurer. So I'll add a little extra, but
do 40 and then do the bigger half of the measure of the jigger, and add that to the vodka and add that to your cocktail shaker.
Perfect. I don't know how much of that you can see, but there we go. That's 40.
Okay.
It is still 3 o'clock in there, almost 4 o'clock now.
Yeah.
Grab your Kahlua. I've got my tea, Maria, and you want to basically put in half of what you put into the vodka. So if you put 40, you want to put 20. I did 50, so I'm measuring out here 25 ml, which is about half the bottle of the miniature. Okay, there we go. And then your shot of coffee. So just grab this. This is about 30 ml. Again, it's all dependent on what you like. So if you like it a strong coffee taste, you can put a bit more in. If you want to hold back on the coffee, you can do that as well. And then you just add that in as well. So you pour that into the cocktail shaker. So we have
so far so good. These are pretty simple instructions. I can handle this much.
So now get the lid of your cocktail shaker, put it on. Make sure
it's well tightened, right?
Well tight. We want to protect both ourselves from flying cocktails and also the device that you're working on. Now, the key to a good espresso martini is a vigorous shake for 10 seconds and only 10 seconds. We just want to cool it down and froth it up. So ready? 3, 2, 1, 10 seconds. There we go. You know it's perfectly chilled when your fingers start to feel like they're about to fall off. And then you just strain it into your martini glass.
Which I have to say is not a martini glass, but it's a champagne glass. So it won't quite look the same as yours, but hey.
As long as it's got a stem, that works for martinis. Because as you see, we're pouring it out and not having any ice in the actual glass itself. So you don't want your fingertips warming up the drink. You basically want to hold on to the stem when you drink it. Now, to traditionally garnish an espresso martini, you add 3 coffee beans.
Frothy.
You can't see this. I'm just adding my coffee beans on the top now. I'll hold it up to the screen so everyone can see, maybe. There we go. Oh, can you see?
Perfect.
There we go.
Yep.
And they
just showing my froth. I think I got a nice level of froth. I don't have the coffee beans with me right now, but
there we go.
But hey, I'm happy with the froth at least. So
looking good.
Well, that's it.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Oh, hello.
Oh. So how many are you? You're doing a couple of events today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have an event this afternoon. So I will be putting this to one side, and I'm not sure I shall not be partaking anymore of the drink. No.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to put my bar away, but I think that was a successful first bar experiment here on the show. So thank you very much for that. That was a lot of fun. I won't be putting mine away because I think this is my last meeting of the day. So I'll have the rest of that. I think my wife might want to have a little sip as well. So it just sits nicely in the background, just blends into the background. So there you go. That's the real drink. The other ones aren't real. Perfect. Well, guys, thank you so much for being on the show. I hope everybody watching, Alan says he's jealous, so that's a good sign. And Florence says, looks so good. Joe says, thank you very much. So she appreciates the shout out. Emma. Florence says it was a great session. Thank you, Florence, for being with us. And Amy just has a nice big smiley face there, so it's brilliant. Thank you, everybody, for watching live. I hope you enjoy the show. There's 2 minutes left to go. I know everybody goes into meetings, etc. after this, so just wanted to thank you, Emma and Will, for being on the show. I hope you get, I don't know if it brings you more business, if it just brings you a nice reason to chat. The recording is going to be on LinkedIn, and I'll share the recording on YouTube as well. So if you want to share that with anyone else, feel free. And just to remind everybody, I am building a website on the side, which I think you might find useful or not, which is called virtualevents.wiki. And I use that just to put in lots of different, to list out these episodes, for example, but also list out lots of tools that you might want to consider for virtual events. So have a look. It's just a free resource that I'm building. And also sign up for our mailing list so that you get an email with notification about future events coming up. So I try to always send those out on Monday. And we're trying to do an event every Thursday now. And I'm joined next week by Patty Spagnola. Patty, a certified event designer who's been designing some internal events, some really interesting events for the University of West Florida. So make sure you join us next week. Probably won't have any cocktails next week, but I promise it'll be a fun show, and you can ask some questions and take some, have some new ideas for your events as well. So please do join us. And once again, Emma, Will, thank you very much. Congratulations on this great idea and great events. I really think that this is creative, fun, and can be applied to almost any type of events. So congratulations. I think you've done a great job, and thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
And that's it from me. So see you next week, hopefully. Take care. See you then.